go.
Sorry,
Let's
guys, if you've been doing this for a while, you already know all the answers to these questions. I'm just getting ready to kick off, so trying to make sure I'm nailing everything down.
Yeah, congrats, David. I'm a little earlier in my journey. I just started the search for my first.
Mm,
Exciting.
good luck with it.
Amazing. Well, this is all, Steve, you can take all of this in just as you prepare to become a host. And it's always great to come
Yep.
to these calls for that exact reason. But I do like to just give specific answers to specific questions. So think of whatever's on your mind and we'll get to it. Same with you, Amelia. I believe you're newer to the calls potentially. So, um, as far as, so we just asked if there's anything else that we should have spare of. It is helpful to have kind of like an emergency box, where, something that all of the things that I can think of off the top of my head, I leave a spare wine opener. That is one that I notice gets lost and goes missing. And that's an emergency. It's definitely an emergency when there's not a wine opener and guests need it.
Yes, it
Um,
is.
So a spare wine opener is good to have in a little box. And you can kind of have this tucked away somewhere. It can also have a combination on it. If you want to keep a wine opener, you can keep, depends how big or small your box is. A lighter is always good to have if your grill requires it, or we've had instances where randomly one of our gas stove burners will stop working, and so the guests need a lighter, and those are just things that go missing. Um, usually at nobody's fault, right? Sometimes people just put something somewhere. We have, I'm trying to think what else is in our magic box. I will leave little things that are often not on purpose, but forgotten by cleaners, easy to forget. Maybe a few extra laundry pods. Let's say my cleaners just forget to check the laundry pod box and they think that there's enough, but there's only a couple in there. So leaving extra laundry pods is a good idea. Um, I would say, if you offer like a deck of cards, that's something that has gone missing often. And I actually often get guests that will say, ask me if I have a deck of cards available. So I leave a spare in a locked box in case they want to grab cards if my other cards go missing. You can leave a spare, hand soap just in case, like those little things that come up where maybe your cleaner forgot to refill one of the hand soaps. A spare sponge is a good idea just in case a guest has, a longer stay or again, something that cleaners can forget every now and then. Um, yeah, I think those are the main things that come off the top of my head, as kind of like emergency items for guests to access for those things that go missing. Oh, and batteries. Always batteries. And a light bulb I would have in a box accessible to guests, because you can't always anticipate when a light bulb is going to go out, and you don't want to have to pay somebody to go out to your property just to change a light bulb. So,
Yeah.
yeah, having a spare light bulb and then batteries. So, let's say you do everything you can in your systems and operations to make sure your for your front door lock doesn't go out. But human error is going to happen. So there might be an instance where the guest says, hey, the lock's not working, or usually if you're using a schlag, I use schlag,
Hmm.
Schlage, that lock, if the battery is too low, it will kind of just start acting weird. It'll still work, but it'll just act slower. And I've had guests change batteries before just in anticipation of, okay, we've got one more night in this stay. I know my cleaners can change it tomorrow, but why don't you go ahead and proactively change the batteries? And usually a
Does
guest will
that
tell
use
you,
a does that use a 9 volt like a smoke detector does?
no, so Schlag, that specific door lock uses, I believe they're double A batteries. I
Yeah.
think there's four double A batteries.
Or double A. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know for sure about the other types of keyless entry locks. I know that if you use the design team through the 1%, they usually install the August Yale locks, which is just another
Yes, I do.
brand. Yeah, so definitely check. I'm not 100% sure what batteries that specific lock takes, but whatever it is, have those spare. And then also it's good to just have AAA batteries on site. TV remotes will need batteries changed, and that's something that, you just cannot guess
Yep.
when that's going to happen. And the last thing you want, again, is to pay somebody or, usually Amazon can deliver quickly, but it's never fun to have to rely on package deliveries during a guest stay because you don't know if they'll retrieve it, you don't know if it'll get lost or so having that backup is good. And then I think I mentioned this already, a light bulb. So no, this is an easy to miss item when you're onboarding a property is knowing what light bulbs are on site and having enough in your own personal backup storage closet, and then also a couple available in that like magic box that guests can access as well. Trying to think if there's anything else. Batteries. Yeah, I think that covers it. But anything that you start noticing, oh, this randomly uh goes missing all the time, or something that my cleaners tend to frequently forget, just go ahead and proactively set that out and have it available.
What about a first aid kit? Would that be in the magic box or would that be like somewhere available to them?
I always keep a first aid kit ready and available to guests. Pick a spot for it, have it in either, one of the bathrooms, usually the bathroom, or maybe under the kitchen sink, and keep it stocked as well. You'll be surprised. Like, guests will use it and it's an everyday item. And you can check that off as an amenity in your listing description.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would keep that ready and available and then have a system for your cleaning team to check it so that it's not, you don't want to accidentally say, yes, we have a first aid kit available, and then a guest go to use it and it doesn't have anything in it. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's a good one. Definitely have other things that I'm thinking of that, are kind of like last minute items that might be forgotten, but definitely having a vacuum on site is a must. It just enables guests to clean up any messes, which is important, especially for stays that are 5 nights or longer. Guests are going to want to clean up after themselves usually. And then that way, maybe they arrive, and I know you're not sure if you're going to host pets, or maybe you erred on the side more of not hosting pets, but for anyone who hosts pets, if a guest arrives and notices a little bit of pet hair, which can happen, they can just go ahead and vacuum it on their own instead of reaching out to you. A lot of people are reasonable in that regard and will just take it upon themselves to do that. Or messes. Messes will happen. Glass will get dropped and broken. So you want to have a vacuum and a dustpan always, for guests to use. I'm trying to think any other easy to miss. I leave a Swiffer for my guests, and it seems to get used, honestly, especially in my more remote property, and for longer stays. Guests will clean the kitchen floor. I don't think they're really cleaning any other floors, but kitchen floors will get cleaned up. So basic cleaning supplies are important to have. What about you, Amelia? Are you newer to the program?
Hi, Emily. Yes, I am. I actually, oh my gosh, I want to say I started back in June or July. I just had a lot of issues going on, and I finally just signed on my first lease yesterday, or was it, yeah, yesterday, last night. So
Nice.
I'm super excited, and I apologize. This is my first time at 10 meetings because I do work from 3:30 to midnight, Monday through Friday. So I'm kind of in between breaks. So I kind of gotta get on the next one.
Yeah, well, thanks for being here, and congratulations on getting
Thank
your
you.
lease signed. Hopefully, and all the calls are recorded, so you should have access to any calls if you ever want to go back and watch. I know it's a bummer when you can't make it live, but it's totally fine to watch any recordings as well. Where did you sign your lease?
And Kissimmee, Florida?
Kissimmee. Okay, nice. Very exciting. Do you have a pool, or I don't know if hot tubs are
Yes,
popular. Okay, you've got a
there's a pool. It's definitely a
amazing.
pool. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's in a very
Yeah.
nice subdivision.
Cool. That's exciting. Is Kissimmee, I believe properties in Kissimmee are relatively close to Disney World. Is that correct?
That's where Disney World is in
Okay.
Kissimmee.
Okay. Okay.
I wanted my
Cool.
first property to be close to me in case, that I need to go over there in emergency. I'm in Jacksonville, Florida.
Okay, nice. Amazing. Yeah, I think that's a fantastic way to look at it. You can definitely my advice there, because you're like me. My properties are within driving distance. But I also manage properties across the US. So I have, there's pros and cons to both. My recommendation would be to set it up as if you can't get there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but you still have that peace of mind of if you can run over there when you need to, then great. So keep that at the forefront of your mind as like pretending like you can't get there. I think I would go back to my first starting out self and tell her to just make sure that I set it up to be all managed remotely, and you'll be happier with how it all runs later on down the road. So yeah, any questions?
Um,
Yeah.
Actually, yes, I have a tons of questions because this is my first property.
Hmm.
This is my first time ever doing something in kind of like real estate.
Hmm.
Um, I just signed the lease and the landlord asked me how did I want to do the turnover. How do most people do that?
Your landlord asks you how you want to do the turnover. Just explain
Yes.
what you mean by that. How.
I guess we've already signed the lease, both of
Mhm.
us digitally over the computer. Now he wants to know, I guess, like to get the key, receive the keys and stuff like that to the property, be able to inspect the property. I know he said he was going to send me updated pictures, the professional pictures that were recently taken.
Mhm. Yeah, so I believe most people in the group hire someone that they call an inspector. And if I recall, the 1% can assist you with finding someone to do that, especially since other people in the group have properties in
Mm-hmm.
Kissimmee. Where essentially, you want to start finding that boots on the ground person. So, who's going to be the person that you call when there's an emergency and you need them to run to your property? So definitely reach out to the 1%. I think they have a whole list of vendors. I think they even have a list of vendors in the circle uh, community that they have recommendations for. But yes, do that, or if you're close enough, you can go get the keys, do an in-person inspection yourself. Definitely 1000% record the condition of the home as is the day you sign your lease. So, whatever, how many years from now, when you go to no longer be renting, you're not getting blamed for damage that wasn't there. It just is a really good way to cover yourself. The landlord should be doing that on their own too, if they're a good landlord. And
Okay.
they want to cover themselves as well. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I would say that either the two ways of finding that person and then using that as an opportunity to establish a relationship with someone who can be that person that you call. So you either take someone off the vendors list that the 1% has, or get in Facebook groups and look for someone who's looking to have little jobs, little side jobs, and say, hey, first gig I have is doing a walkthrough of my property, um, taking pictures, taking videos, looking for any issues or problems. You can hire a professional inspector too to do something like that to make sure there isn't any major maintenance issue going on. And then, let's say you're calling people to do this, you can say, hey, I'm going to be looking for someone to roll trash bins in and out to my curb for X amount every week. I'm going to be looking for someone you won't need shoveling, but you'll need lawn care. You'll need, pool service. So start making connections, and maybe that person you hire has basic maintenance skills and abilities too, like changing light bulbs, or hopefully your cleaning team can change light bulbs for you. But that's what I would recommend, just now taking the time to find those vendors that can hopefully double as people on your boots on the ground team. Does
Okay.
that kind of
Awesome.
answer your question?
Yes, it does. It helps a lot. And where can I go back and look at your videos? Because I know I've missed a lot.
Oh yeah. Okay, so I contract out for coaching calls, so I don't always know the ins and outs of where everything is on the back end, but I believe, let me open the Circle app. This is a good question for whoever your contact is. Um, I believe it's in Circle. Are you a member of the Circle community yet?
I want to say
Because it used to be everything on Facebook, and then in the summer, the 1% transferred everything.
I don't think I am. I need to do that tonight.
Yeah, I would do that, especially, let me see if, oh yes, the courses are in the Circle. So everything used to be in Kajabi, which
Hmm.
was just a platform that all the modules and coaching calls were added to, but now they've just moved everything, centralized it. So our community, the back and forth discussion is in Circle, and it looks like yeah, the main modules and recorded coaching calls. There's like almost 200 coaching calls in there. So there's good stuff to
Okay,
go back.
perfect.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
awesome.
Also, as you're just starting out or you're getting into the Circle group, connect with people that are in Kissimmee, and they'll be the right people to say, hey, this is my maintenance person. Hey, this is who did my inspection. Here's my cleaner's info. Definitely connect with people so that you don't have to just start from square one when,
Right.
I think it's helpful. And that doesn't mean
Perfect.
just because someone recommends someone to you, it doesn't mean you have to use that person. Still vet them to make sure they meet your standards. Um, don't just take someone's word for it. I think that's like an overarching theme with everything we do in life. Always
Mhm.
do your due diligence, but start there, start getting referrals, and then that'll give you a head start, I think.
Gotcha. Okay.
Hmm.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. I did hear you mention as well that your landlord has photos that they had from their Zillow listing. Do you plan to get design and photography for your property as well?
Yes, I actually have a meeting with Christopher tomorrow.
Okay, I'm not sure who Christopher is
He's the
in.
one, well, he contacted me via Slack. He said he is like the designer.
Oh, okay.
Oh, let me see here. Christopher. Okay, it looks like Christopher. Uh, it says, I'm happy to walk you through options and tailor the best plan for you. Book a quick call here. Um, Let me see here. He said he's here to guide you on your design strategy when you're ready.
Cool.
So he's the
Awesome.
guy with the, I'm assuming he's going to help me out with the furniture and all that good stuff.
With design.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I'm not 100% sure of all the team members and departments, but I do know there's a design department, and it sounds like he's reaching out to you to essentially sign up for a call to review what that process looks like. So definitely do that, and get a feel for it. I think they would tell you, their design ideas, who's available, their timelines, cost. These are my guesses about what that call would look like. So definitely, if design is not your forte or you don't have experience with design, you definitely want to hire it out to a professional. The return on investment with design, I mean, it's hard to explain, I guess, other than it will be a game changer. So,
I think I'm definitely going to go with design because I have no experience. I'm not no interior decorator, anything like that.
yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
definitely going to get his some help for that.
Yeah, I think that's good. The self-awareness is key, and just knowing your lane and what you should focus on and what you should hire out to other people. So yeah, design, and then they'll help you find a photographer. It sounds like you're getting photos from your landlord, but I always recommend getting short-term rental specific photography where it's not just a real estate photographer that goes snap, snap, snap in every corner of the room, because normal, regular real estate photographers are trained to demonstrate layout and size. In Airbnb, layout and size are not important. We have to find a way to demonstrate and show an experience and highlight amenities within our listing. So if the photographer has never done short-term rental specific photography, you're going to get the generic, like what you see on Zillow, right? Like when you're flipping
Right.
through Zillow, it's in the order of how you would walk through the home, and it's like you can just put a tripod. I'm not downplaying real estate photography whatsoever. It's just different than someone who
But I
can help
understand
you.
where you're coming
Yeah.
from. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's like I sound like a broken record probably, but um because I'm always telling people to make sure you know who your photographer is and what their experience is, and always ask for, just like with design, you want to look at the portfolio of that designer and see what projects they've done that you like. And
Hmm.
maybe they have some that you're like, oh, this isn't my style, or this isn't what I think will work in my market. Make sure you're seeing a portfolio for both your designer and for your photographer. So if a
Okay.
photographer, yeah, if they don't have a portfolio that shows their experience,
Hmm.
you don't know what you're going to get. You just don't know.
Right.
And you get what you pay for, with both design and photography. You don't need to go with the top,
Hmm.
top, top highest end photographer or designer. But if you're, only paying $200, you're probably going to get photos that reflect $200, if that makes sense.
Right. That
So
makes sense.
yeah, same with cleaners. I know I'm going off on a tangent here a little bit, but same with cleaners. You'll be tempted when you start calling around to different cleaners. You'll get bids. Let's say you post on Turno, which is a marketplace to find cleaners. You'll have all these cleaners bid for your property. And some cleaners use the strategy to bid really, really low, so they can get your business. And oftentimes their objective is quality, not necessarily quantity. So they want to just take
Right.
on as many listings as possible, and they know they'll get bites from more hosts with a lower bid. It doesn't always mean that that's the best deal. So, uh,
Right.
yeah. So, but you don't
Definitely
have to,
want to look at the reviews.
yeah, always look at the reviews of the cleaners, get on an interview and ask them questions. You'll learn really quickly how that cleaner communicates with you just in that initial interview, because communication with your cleaner is so important. You have to be able to understand their communication style. Are they responsive? Can they, answer your questions? Or, do they show up late to the call that you have scheduled with them? I have found I've interviewed hundreds. I wish I had the exact number, but I've interviewed a lot of cleaners, and it checks out almost perfectly. If a cleaner shows up late to a call, they have showed up late to cleanings and they've been unreliable. So it's just like with any
Oh, okay.
job interview. So
Correct.
definitely, yeah, I think going off on a little tangent, but things for you to start thinking about now that you've signed your
Okay.
lease.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Any other questions you guys have? I think you're muted.
Thank you.
You're
Um,
good.
so coming up to the holidays, we really hope to launch in the next few days, hopefully next week for sure. Are we still in time to get people for like the end of the month for Christmas, that sort of thing? We're
Yes.
still in that window.
Mhm.
Should we? I I should know this already, but I know we should black out some days so that we don't have people actually booking on like Christmas Day or stuff like that. C- Could you walk us through that just for the Christmas time sort of holidays?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good question. Let me see if I can pull up my hospitable and I can walk you through how to do that. And just for the record, for everyone here, what David's talking about is he's essentially asking if A, he can still get a last minute holiday booking, which just yes, the answer is yes. There's always a way that you can get a last minute booking like that. It's not even last minute yet, depending on your market, but Christmas just got booked at one of my properties down south here in Colorado. So Other properties I've had booked for the last 3 months. Like it just totally depends. With that said, a lot of times, especially when you're a new listing, Airbnb is going to want to give you that boost as a new host. There's going to be things that come up where a guest has had a booking and they get canceled on last minute by a host. Maybe a pipe bursts or, the host, something happened, and you'll be the first listing that Airbnb reaches out to try to get the guests rebooked because usually you're the cheapest. So that's something to be ready for because you can save the day. Those are the best bookings to get for your first handful of bookings is someone that reaches out and says, "Hey, we just showed up to our Airbnb and the host never sent us our code. We need a booking ASAP. We'll be there in an hour." And then you're going to be the host that's like, "Yep, we're available. Come on in. Everything's ready for you." And you'll save their whole day and then you'll get the best review ever. So I hope that happens for you. I feel like that's been one of the way I've gotten first time bookings many times. It happens a lot, which also just goes to show how many poor hosts there are out there. Not from pipes bursting, but there are definitely hosts. We just hosted someone recently where a guest showed up to the Airbnb and just never got the code. So they were desperately looking for another place to stay. And it's like, gosh, how does that even happen? Um, but your second question was okay, so this is optional, but he was asking if it's appropriate to have guests be able to check in or check out, let's say on December 25th, which is Christmas. And it kind of depends. Anytime you restrict your calendar, you reduce your chances of showing up in search. So consider that as you're trying to get your first bookings, you want to be more available. With that said, you also have to have a conversation with your cleaner and ask them if we get a check-in on December 25th, let's say you have a check out on the same day, on December 25th, and a check-in on December 25th. That's going to be a same day turnover. And you need to know if your cleaner is going to be able to get over to your property or if they're going to say, "Hey, no, I'm with my family on this holiday. I don't work on holidays." So that's something you have to have that conversation with your cleaner beforehand. And then some cleaners will charge double or whatever. They'll increase their fee if they're cleaning on the 25th, January 1st, the 4th of July, all the major holidays. So ask that first. Also, you have to think about yourself. And do you want to be thinking about a guest checking in on the holiday? You'll be hosting on the holiday, but a check-in and a turnover is different with a level of involvement for yourself. So consider what days you want to be open for business for check-ins and checkouts personally. Again, just reiterating, sorry, I'm getting a call. Just reiterating again that anytime your calendar is blocked or restricted, you will not show up in search as often. So I'll show you, let me kind of get my screen here ready so I can show you what I mean. Let me see. A lot of my dates are already booked up, so it's harder to show. Okay, I'll just do one manually for you guys. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. So I jumped ahead to July. So knowing that there's a holiday on July 4th. You guys can see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is hospitable if you decide to use a property management system. For those who are still deciding, this is what it looks like. And let's say I don't want, there's multiple reasons why you wouldn't want a guest to check in or out on the actual holiday that we just talked about. And another reason is because you don't want a guest to necessarily break up the holiday week where ideally, you don't want someone to check in on Saturday and check out on Monday when you could get a booking from Tuesday to Monday. So sometimes that's why, I'll restrict check-in from the 1st through the 4th if the holiday's on the Saturday, because I want them to check out on Saturday and I want that whole weekend booked. I don't want to have a shortened weekend on a holiday that's going to get booked anyway. So what you would do is click on the date and you don't block it off We don't just completely block it off, but you can restrict that. Let's say you want a guest to be able to check in, but you don't want a guest checking out that day, for example. Or you can restrict check in and check out. So you don't have any turnover on this day, but a guest could still book Friday to Monday. They just can't check in and out on this day. So then your cleaners aren't cleaning on the 4th of July and you're not handling a turnover on the 4th of July. So does that answer your question? Is that what you asked?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. But specifically for like the Christmas holidays and New Year's, but they fall on
Hmm.
a Thursday. So
Hmm.
would a better strategy be to sort of make that a 3 day or 4 day minimum stay?
Yeah, you definitely can do that. You said you're launching here in a couple days, so you're far enough out from Christmas still. It's not like it's this week. So you can still put some of those minimum night stay restrictions. So let's say, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you could put a 3 night minimum on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So you're getting, if a guest books on Thursday, they have to stay through Sunday. Um, that would be an option as well. Or you can also restrict, okay, so but the holiday, Christmas, this is July, obviously, but you can restrict, let's say this is the holiday, you can restrict check-in and check-out on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So which would require a guest to book the first through the fifth, Wednesday to Sunday. I know it's confusing because we don't have actual real dates, but if we're pretending that this is the holiday because it's on a Thursday, you can
But
restrict check-in for these 3 dates. Check
but
in, check out.
but that's so I'm restricting check-in, which sort of counts against me. If I put a 3 day minimum, is that also like a, a sort of mark against me?
Either or are not a mark against you, but it's more about whether or not you're showing up in search. So it's really the same thing. So what I mean by that, let's do an example. Let's go to Airbnb. Um, and let's go switch to traveling. So I'm in travelers mode. And let's just say, where's your destination again?
Mesa, Phoenix area.
Okay. That's what I thought. Okay, so let's just say you're a potential guest searching and you want to check in on Christmas Day and check out on Saturday. So 2 nights, one, two. And then they're going to click search, and these are the properties that are going to show up. If you have a 3 night minimum for Thursday, you're not going to pull up in that search. You're not
Gotcha.
going to appear. Yep. And same if you restrict check in or check out on the 25th, you will not pull up in this search.
So it's the same thing really.
Essentially.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So there's some. Usually, you can restrict your calendar based on how far out that booking is and how demand your property is going to be in. We don't have that data yet necessarily with your specific property because you haven't launched yet. So it may be better off for for your first handful of bookings until you have a handful of reviews. You can consider it. You're at the whim of just getting bookings to get started and
Hmm.
keeping your calendar as least restrictive as possible. Um, so having a 3 night minimum on a holiday though is not a bad idea. Like it depends on what your pricing strategy is and how you set up your price labs in the first place. Um, so that will be important to look at as well if you do plan to use price labs. Um, so yeah, it's not really one of these things where it's like black or white, you should do it this way or you should do it this way. It kind of depends on, let's just say you decided to take the route of, I'm going to restrict the 25th from getting a check-in or check-out, and you're at the 18th and you still don't have a booking yet. Then you may say, hey, I'm a week out. You know what? I'm going to open that up and, try to get that booking so that I increase my chances of it happening because it's only 7 days away. Um, we're still at, 2 weeks away. So maybe you test it out for 4 or 5 days, see what's happening with your bookings, and then go from there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in my guess is you're going to get booked. I think regardless of if you have a 3 night minimum or restricted check-in or check-out, because there's going to be people who need somewhere to stay on the holiday at the last minute, and you're going to be lower, relatively speaking, compared to your comps. You're likely going to be lower priced because you're going to put that 20% off promotion on for your first 3 bookings. I don't anticipate you'll have any issues, even with those mild calendar restrictions. I can't say for sure, but that's just my thoughts initially. I hope that makes
Yeah.
sense to
Yeah.
everyone.
That's
Okay.
very helpful. Thanks.
Yeah, of course. What else you got for me?
Um, what what sort of what are the major complaints then for somebody starting off? Do you know?
That guests will give to hosts?
Yeah.
Ooh, it's definitely dependent upon your property and your hosting style. Um, I don't get a lot of major complaints, to be honest, because I proactively think about a lot of things, and have systems. With that said, I would say in the Airbnb game in general, your biggest pain point, or a lot of hosts' biggest pain point, is cleaning. And
Yeah.
though that's going to be where a lot of complaints, if you don't have everything nailed down, that's going to be the place that it hurts the most.
Yeah.
I would say this isn't really necessarily a complaint, but you may get guests every now and then that send an inquiry and they say, hey, your prices are way too high. Or maybe you hold a boundary with not allowing pets, and someone says, well, we want to bring our pet. You may get little messages from guests that you're not even hosting. Uh, and take those and understand that a lot of times, if someone is willing to complain to you before you've even hosted them, they're probably not going to be a great guest to host anyway. So don't get upset if you lose the booking from that type of person. See it as a blessing.
Hmm.
That's kind of a mindset shift that it's like at first I remember feeling really bummed if someone said, "Well, you won't give me a discount. I'm so mad." And I'd think to myself, oh, that sucks. I didn't get the booking. And then total mindset shift with I've realized those are typically the guests that are never going to be happy, no matter what you do.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I would say cleaning, that's probably, and then supplies. I think another pain point, the next two biggest pain points for a lot of hosts are going to be supplies and maintenance. So, if you've got back-to-back maintenance issues, it's going to hurt. It's going to feel stressful potentially because a lot of times those maintenance issues maybe are completely out of your control. So set your expectations where we are dealing with houses at the end of the day. I believe you guys are homeowners yourselves, so you know that things can happen. You're not having to replace a roof, thankfully, with arbitrage. You know that's not something you're going to have to worry about. But
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that. Actually, there is some issues with the roof, but
oh.
it's probably not going to rain here for a while. So, but yeah, there's roof work needed. So we might have to suspend our calendar at some point.
Yeah, if that happens, you should not be liable for rent in those situations. So definitely have those conversations with I
Yeah.
just encourage you to have those conversations with your landlord. If you are unable to run your business because of a circumstance dealing with the home, then you should be comped in some way, shape, or form, in my opinion. Um, that and definitely self-advocate if you're getting pushback from a landlord for a home that is quote unquote inhabitable or prevents you from being able to run your business.
Hmm.
And if you know that there's a roof issue and maybe I don't know if you guys are having water or a leak or anything, just be ready and have those supplies available. And if you know about an issue, this goes for anything, but let's just say in this example, there's a roof issue and you notice that there's a leak that happens every now and then suddenly it starts happening consistently, but it wouldn't impact a guest's stay necessarily. Be forthcoming with the guest about that. Hey, guest, just wanted to let you know everything is, perfectly habitable. Things are fine. We preemptively have left a bucket in the, supply in this closet because when it rains, a little leak comes through and we can't get a vendor out until X date. Just want to make sure you're cool with this. And the guest may say, no, absolutely not. We're not cool with that. We're canceling. Good. Then good. That's at least you've warned them and they made their decision before you're fighting back and forth about refunds and reviews. You never want to know something that's going on with your property and wait for a guest to get there to be like, well, they obviously knew about this or, blame you for not communicating with them. Something actually comes to mind. You guys probably noticed I was out the last 2 weeks. We were actually in the Philippines and staying at hotels. And we actually had an incident where we were staying at a really nice resort area. And I woke up and the entire bathroom was filled with water, just completely filled with water. And being somebody in hospitality and property management, I know that these things happen. Um, so I reached out to the staff and let them know. It was amazing to see how swiftly they responded to the issue and how calm they were, and how their calmness completely translated to me staying calm. So, they validated, they never said, well, what did you do? I see this happen all the time in other hosting groups. If you get on Facebook and you see how people handle things, hosts handle things with guests, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you did everything wrong. Never blame the guest. There wasn't any like questioning. It was just immediately. Obviously, a hotel is a little bit different because they have staff. They literally have a full-time maintenance staff that lives on site. Different story than in short-term rentals. We manage things a little bit differently. But uh, we may as hosts have to do a little bit of frontline troubleshooting because it's a house and we can't maybe get somebody there within seconds. And then immediately, no questions asked, we were moved to another room that was of better quality than the room that we were currently in. Had the person I reached out to questioned me, asked me to do too many troubleshooting things or asked me to clean up. It just put so many things in perspective for me of like how to handle these types of situations. So, all that said, the best of the best five-star resort places have leaky pipes too. So, staying calm as a host and immediately solving problems for people, it almost just made me want to leave them a even better review than I was going to in the first place because I saw how great they were in a troubling situation. Um, so I only bring that up because you are going to have those situations. Maybe something comes up with this roof problem. Just be ready to handle it. Be ready to know who to call and be ready to proactively offer. It doesn't always have to be, oh my gosh, we're going to refund your entire night. It can be something as simple as, we're so sorry this happened. We have actively, credited you to, X amount, or we have proactively informed our cleaners that you can check out at 1 o'clock or whatever. Do something proactively, to get ahead of any complaints so that the guest isn't feeling like shorted, I guess, or cheated. I think with this situation, realized that time is valuable. So as hosts, we want to be communicative, but we don't want to be too communicative where messages are interrupting a guest. Um, I was so appreciative of all of the communication that I had, but it was never disturbing to my stay. And even this water issue that we had, they knew that we had plans for that day and they didn't waste my time. They didn't, they knew we were trying to get out the door. We needed to quickly pack our bags and move to another room. They coordinated getting the bags to the new spot. And they didn't bother us with tons of questions about what happened. Where if I had to stop, answer their questions, go back and forth, we would have been late for the boat ride we were trying to catch, and it would have impacted my stay more greatly than it did. So keep that in mind. Um, I don't remember where I was going with that. I think just in general, talking about maintenance issues and how they will come up and being ready and prepared to deal with them. Um, you're never going to know when they're going to happen either. So I think that's why being prepared is even better. Any other questions? Or we have 6 minutes left. I'm happy to answer any other questions. I did have some other takeaways from my stay at these resorts. If anyone wants to hear any of those and how they're applicable to short-term rentals, we can do that too.
Sure. If if nobody else has questions.
Cool. Dana, Amelia, do you guys have anything for the last few minutes here? Otherwise, I'll fill the last few minutes just with some things I learned.
No, that would be awesome. No, I don't have any questions for now. Sure, I'll have more in the future.
Cool.
Yeah, no
Amazing.
questions here. I want to hear about your trip.
Mm, perfect. Amazing. Well, yeah, the trip was fabulous and our accommodations were so great. Airbnbs are not as, I guess, trustworthy over in Asia. So we chose hotels for everything, and your dollar just goes so much farther over there. So we almost accidentally stayed at just some higher end places that we could probably never afford in the States. But with all of that, I was able to kind of take away some things that they did. Of course, just being a coach to you guys. I'm like, I got to bring something back. So, um, I was really blown away. The first resort we stayed at wrote us a handwritten card, and it was addressed both of our names, myself and my husband. And they left a little box of treats, local treats, which we always talk about in these calls, how to set yourself apart even as a host that does this for other people, it we had just traveled across the world. And so getting somewhere to feel this little touch of familiarity where someone called me by name, wrote me a note, and left me a treat, I can't even explain. Like it just makes you feel warm and cozy and like somebody thought of you. Even if I know that that's something that I do for other guests, it makes an impact. So if you're not doing handwritten notes, train your cleaners how to do handwritten notes. It doesn't have to be long. And if you don't have any type of welcome gift, maybe local coffee, something inexpensive, make it meaningful. It truly makes an impact. So that was the first takeaway. All of the staff at the various hotels we stayed at called us by, they would say Mr. and Mrs. Higby, or they would call, they remembered our names, or they called it was so cute in Asia, they kept calling us ma'am, sir. So just remember that when you're in your guest messaging, it's obviously, virtual, it's not in person like it is at a hotel. But if maybe a guest has programmed their name into Airbnb and it's like sometimes guests will just put VV and they don't actually put their real name, but then they end up telling you their real name, or maybe you take a moment to find out what their real name is. Update your automated messaging to fill in with their correct actual name. Or let's say, their name is their full name in Airbnb, but you've noticed they sign their messages and they say, the name Becky's in mind because Becky's the other coach. But let's say they say their name is Rebecca in Airbnb, but they go by Becky. Start changing your automated messaging manually. Go in and change the automation to say Becky instead of Rebecca. And that little shift can make a huge difference. It shows that you pay attention. Um, then let me see. Anticipatory service. So we arrived to check in. Actually, we were just going to drop our bags so that we could explore the city. And usually hotels can offer an early check-in, and this hotel specifically couldn't because it was a really busy time. So they proactively said, even though we couldn't get you in early today, we've granted late checkout automatically for your day, your checkout day. We couldn't use the late checkout, but still, that anticipation of, oh, we want to show them that we go above and beyond for them just made all the real difference. I was like, okay, cool. We won't be checking out late, but that was really nice. So those little things can make a difference. Um, in the hotels, we had to settle a bill because your card is on file and it's different again with virtual hosting, but they knew that we had an early departure the next day, and so they anticipated, hey, let's settle the bill before you leave at 6 a.m. because we know you're going to be, getting out the door or sleeping as late as you can. And just the little thought that they had about me and my sleep, my beauty sleep that I need, it went a long way. I was like, wow, that's really impressive that they obviously they want to get their bill paid and they don't want to risk not getting it paid, but it felt very thoughtful. Let me see. What were the big ones? We already talked about over communicating in a good way, but not bothering people. Oh, this was another one. We spoke with the hotel staff and they gave us so many recommendations, and the recommendations were specific to us. Like it was probably copied and pasted to an extent, but we told them exactly the things that we wanted to do or what types of adventures we were looking for. And they provided specific custom recommendations for those things. So if a guest tells you that they're there for a wedding anniversary, and you send them a list to all these casual dining spots, they're probably going to be like, oh, they didn't really listen to me. They just gave me, the counter service local spot that they like. When usually for anniversaries, people want candlelight dinner, steakhouse. Um, so make sure you're not just copying and pasting and actually get personal. Have separate pre-programmed lists for all different types of things, anniversaries, casual, birthday, make it so you can get as personal as possible with as much automation as possible at the same time. We also had robes and slippers. In Asia, you take your shoes off. It's a big thing that you don't usually wear shoes inside, which we are 100% implementing in our personal home now too. Everything is just stays so much cleaner. It's just a bad habit to wear shoes inside. But they provided shoes and slippers, and it was so cozy. I feel like it's an easy little touch. Yes, it's additional cleaning for your cleaning staff, but it can make a really big difference, especially if you have a hot tub or a pool, to have little details like that. It bumps it up to feeling luxury with that little tiny touch. So if you're not already doing that, we are going to consider implementing that into our more luxury property. Oh, and the last thing, we had servers that we would see every day. You start seeing the same people. And when they could tell that we were happy, they didn't do it in a disruptive way, but they very personally asked us if we would leave a review. And it just, I guess, normalized it. I'm always encouraging everyone in this group to ask for reviews. Again, virtually, it's harder to personalize things, but you can still say, you know, hey, we noticed that you really enjoyed how clean the house was, and you mentioned that a couple times. It would mean the world to us if you left that in your review. And instead of just saying, hi, we hosted you, give us a review, thanks, bye. I don't think anyone does that, but it can come across that way if there's no personalization in your review request. And when the staff, they would say, my name's Frank. If you mention me personally in your review, it'll make a big difference to me. That made me want to leave a review for them so much more. So if you can tie something in where you're not begging, but you're showing that, hey, this improves your family business, it improves your family's life, it makes it so you can share your beautiful home with future guests that are like them. I guess make the wording so that they feel inclined to do it, not like they're just checking a box off and writing a review for someone who doesn't matter and they're leaving a review for no purpose. Give them a purpose. That's all I have. But all of that said, it was really fun to be on the opposite end of hosting, and it was cool to see that my properties ran very smoothly when I was 15 hours ahead of Colorado time. It was crazy, but it was all doable. And I encourage everyone to, even Amelia, we talked about at the beginning of the call, Even if you're close, set your property up to be run remotely because you will want to be as remote as possible. Maybe you'll be in Asia or across the world and things can still run smooth. It was proof that it can be done, and that's the coolest thing ever about being in this business is you can travel the world while you're hosting people, and it's pretty life-changing at the end of the day. So I never would have been able to do this when I had my W-2. So I'm very grateful. With that said, we're a little bit past time, but I appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate all of your questions. It's good to be back. I cannot wait, David, to hear about your launch, hopefully next week. Um,
I'll be in
yeah,
touch for sure. I'll let you know.
amazing. Amazing. Awesome, you guys. Bring questions every time. Just have a list ready and drop them in the chat if you want. I'm always prepared. So that's it, you guys. I'll see you guys soon.
All right,
Thank you,
take
Emily.
care. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.